Once you make pita bread at home, it will be really hard for you to go back to store-bought. Why? Because the homemade version is light years better than any pita sold at the store. It is soft, fluffy, guess what? Way easier than you think. Plus, no kneading required. You only need 6 simple ingredients and you can use it for stuffing, dipping, or even making pita chips. So in today's video, I am showing you 2 foolproof ways to make it, 1 in the oven and 2 on the stovetop. And if you're wondering how to get it to puff, got you covered. I'll walk you through exactly what you need to do to make it happen. Let's get started. All right, we'll start by activating the yeast and then making the dough. If you have a kitchen scale, this is a good time to use it. Into a large mixing bowl, we will add 1 cup of warm water. We want the water to be between 105 and 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Thermometer is handy here, but if you don't have one, think of warm bath water. Keep in mind, if the water is too hot, we risk killing the yeast, and if it is too cold, it won't activate properly. We'll sprinkle it with 1 packet or 7 grams of active dry yeast and 1 teaspoon or 4 grams of sugar. The sugar helps feed the yeast so it can do its job. We'll give it a stir, and then into the same bowl, we'll add 1 cup or 120 grams of all-purpose flour and 1 tablespoon of olive oil. We'll stir it until smooth, breaking up most of the flour clumps and scraping the sides of the bowl as needed. We'll cover it with a kitchen towel and let it rest for 15 minutes or until it starts to foam bubbles. Now that our yeast is nice and bubbly, we'll add the rest of the dry ingredients. Into the same bowl, we'll add 2 more cups or 240 grams of all-purpose flour and 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. We'll grab a wooden spoon or just use clean hands and mix everything together until a sticky dough forms. It should take about a minute or so. At this stage, the dough will feel soft, slightly sticky, and it won't be super smooth. When you first start mixing it, it will feel like it's too wet, and then when you continue to mix it, especially towards the end, it will feel like you don't have enough liquid in there. All of this is totally normal. Trust the process. We'll cover the bowl with a clean kitchen towel and let the dough rest in a warm place for 30 minutes. Letting it rest gives the flour to fully hydrate and allows the gluten to start developing, which will make the dough easier to work with later on. As for the warm place, yeast loves warmth. It helps the dough rise properly. If your kitchen is on the chillier side, you can place the bowl inside your oven with just a light on or near a warm spot on the counter. After 30 minutes, the dough will look puffier and more elastic, exactly what we're going for. Now that our dough has rested, it is time to give it a quick fold. We'll gently grab the edge of the dough with our fingertips, lift it up, and fold it halfway towards the center. Then we'll turn the bowl about 45 degrees and do the same thing again. We'll keep repeating this process, lifting, folding, and turning until we've gone all the way around a total of 4 times. This step helps strengthen the gluten, which gives the pita its soft yet structured texture. You'll notice the dough starts feeling smoother and more elastic as you go. We'll drizzle about a teaspoon of olive oil over the top, then we'll gently rotate the dough bowl to make sure it's evenly coated. Doing this prevents it from drying out while it rests. Once again, we'll cover the bowl with a kitchen towel and let the dough rest in a warm spot for about an hour or until it almost doubles in size. Now, this is the final big rise where the yeast does most of the work. As it ferments, it creates air pockets that will help our pita puff up later. By the time we check back, the dough should be light and airy, not perfectly smooth like a kneaded dough, and that's exactly what we want. Because we didn't knead it, the yeast has done all the work creating that soft, delicate structure, which is one of the key factors for getting that signature puff when we cook it. Now that our dough has doubled in size, it's time to divide it into portions. First, we'll dust our work surface with a small amount of flour. Then we'll gently transfer the dough onto the flour surface and knead it for about 30 to 40 seconds, just enough to shape it into a smooth ball. Now we need to divide it into 8 equal pieces. If you have a kitchen scale, bring it back. Weighing the dough ensures that each piece is roughly the same size, which helps them cook evenly. My dough is about 599 grams, let's say 600 grams, divided by 8. Each piece should be around 75 grams. And if you don't have a scale, you can eyeball it. Just try to get them as even as possible. Using a bench scraper or a sharp knife, we'll cut the dough into 8 pieces. I like to first cut it in half and then cut each piece piece into 4 pieces. Next, we'll shape each piece into a ball. Just take a piece, gently bring each end towards the middle, turn it around, and roll it against the work surface until it is smooth. Though keep in mind we're not kneading here, just shaping it. As we go, we'll place them seam side down on the lightly floured surface so they hold their shape while we're working on the rest. Once they're all shaped, we'll cover them with a kitchen towel and this time let them rest for 20 minutes. This quick rest lets gluten relax, which makes rolling them out much easier. If you skip this step, the dough will fight back and shrink when you try to roll it. After 20 minutes, they should be slightly puffed and ready to roll into pita rounds. While the dough is resting, we'll adjust the oven rack to the lowest position and place a baking sheet upside down on the rack. If you have a piece of stone, even better, just place it on the rack instead. Preheating is key here, so we're cranking the oven up to 500 Fahrenheit degrees. A super hot oven is what helps the pita puff. That being said, if your oven doesn't go up to 500 Fahrenheit degrees, just set it as high as it will go. While the oven heats up, we'll cut a large sheet of parchment paper into 8 6x8-inch pieces. Parchment paper do 2 things here. 1, it helps us with transferring the pita in and out of that very hot oven. And 2, it gives us a guide to make sure that each pita is about the same size. Alright, moving on. It's time to roll the pita. We'll take one dough bowl at a time and using a floured rolling pin, we'll gently flatten it into a 6-inch circle. While rolling the dough, it is best to rotate it several times to maintain its round shape. The important thing here is to be gentle. We're not pressing down hard or forcing it into shape. Instead, we'll let the rolling pin and the light glide of our hands do the work. If we press too hard, we'll knock out all those air bubbles we worked so hard to create, because those bubbles are what help the pita puff up when it hits the heat. Also, it's okay to use a small amount of flour both on your work surface and on the rolling pin, but resist the urge to add too much so we won't lose all the moisture in the dough. Once rolled out, we'll brush off any excess flour and place each round on a piece of parchment paper. We'll let them rest for 15 minutes, which will allow the dough to relax and give us the best chance for that signature puff. You see, the combination of lightly handled dough and a super hot oven is the secret to getting that puff. If we roll too aggressively or the oven isn't hot enough, the pita won't inflate the way that we want it to. So let's bake the pita. Remember those parchment paper that we cut earlier? This is where they come in handy. They make it easy to transfer the dough without deflating it. We'll work with 2 pita rounds at a time and carefully place them along with the parchment onto the hot baking sheet. At this stage, speed matters. We want to work quickly to keep the oven temperature high. Bake for 2.5 minutes, then flip them over and bake for another 2.5 minutes until they're lightly golden brown. Now let's talk about timing. If your oven is a little cooler or doesn't quite reach 500 degrees, your pita might need a little extra time. Ideally, you want to see it start puffing almost immediately when it hits the hot baking sheet. For a 500 degree oven, 2.5 minutes per side is usually sufficient, but let your eyes guide you more than the timer. And once you flip them, you might notice some puffing right away, or it might take a few more seconds. Just keep an eye on them because it happens quite fast. And if this is your first time making pita, don't stress it if first couple aren't perfect. Think of them as your test run to figure out the exact timing for your oven. With all this being said, even if your pita doesn't puff up, promise it will taste as incredible, soft, warm, and let's face it, way better than store-bought. Moving on. Now that we've covered how to bake pita in the oven, let's make it on the stovetop. For this method, we need a super hot skillet, which by now you know is the key to getting that puff. We'll heat a cast iron skillet over medium-high heat for about 10 to 15 minutes. Now, I know it might seem like a long time, but we want that pan really hot before the dough touches it. Once heated, we'll lightly coat the bottom with a small amount of olive oil, just enough to prevent it from sticking. You can also wipe it with a sheet of paper towel to distribute it evenly, though be very careful as the skillet is super hot. Next, we'll carefully place a pita round on the skillet, but in about a minute, you should see some puff on the surface. Then we'll flip it over and cook for another minute. Then we'll flip it one more time and let it cook for 30 seconds, which, this last bit helps it cook thoroughly. Once it's done, we'll take it off the heat and repeat with the remaining loaves. You don't need to add more oil after each time, but if the pan starts looking dry, you can use just a little bit more. Before I let you go, here are a few helpful tips. If you want to prep it in advance, follow the recipe until the first rise, right before dividing the dough into pieces. At that point, cover the bowl and store it in the fridge for up to 24 hours. When you're ready to continue, let the dough sit at room temperature for a couple of hours, then proceed with shaping and cooking. Cooked pita stays fresh for 3 to 4 days in an airtight container in the fridge. Just make sure it is completely cooled before storing. If you want to freeze it, let the pita cool completely, then wrap it tightly in a plastic wrap and place it in a freezer-safe bag. Remove as much air as possible to prevent freezer burn. It should be good for up to 3 months. And when it comes to reheating, no need to thaw. Just pop it in a toaster or 300-degree oven for a few minutes or until it is warm. Baking pita might feel like a process, but I promise it is so satisfying once you try it. As I'm baking, I usually treat myself to one with a little butter while it's still warm, and let me tell you, it is such a treat. If you want more details, including how to use pita in recipes, plus my favorite serving ideas, I have it all on the blog. You'll find a link in the description below. If you found this video helpful, please let me know in the comments. And if you try making pita at home, I'd love to hear how it went. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. And let the dough rest. Place air pockets. First we'll dust our works of done.